As the sun began to rise on a clear morning, Michelle Thorne's boat could be seen from afar, anchored near the shore of Dyer Island in Gansbaai. She had traveled a long way to explore the deep sea and capture some of her YouTube channel's most stunning underwater footage. Michelle was a famous YouTuber known for her underwater exploration videos, often receiving millions of views. She was known for her adventurous spirit, tenacity, and love for the ocean. Michelle donned her scuba gear, and with her underwater camera and light, she began her descent into the blue depths of the ocean. She swam through the clear waters, encountering colorful schools of fish and intricate coral reefs. As she swam deeper, the water became colder, and the light began to dim. But she was determined to find something special to add to her collection of underwater footage. She explored for hours, but it wasn't until she came across an intriguing underwater cave that she found what she was looking for. Michelle's curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to explore the cave. The scene in the underwater cave was eerie and gave Michelle an uneasy feeling. The dark waters and silence starkly contrasted with the vibrant colors and noises of the ocean floor. But she pressed on, hoping to find something worth filming. As Michelle ventured deeper into the cave, she couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. The water was getting murkier, and she could barely see her hands before her face. Her heart raced as she felt a sudden disturbance in the water, causing her to stop in her tracks. Was she being followed? The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, and she could feel a tingle down her spine. She spun her light and camera toward the direction of the movement, and her heart pounded in her chest. The beam of her flashlight illuminated nothing but darkness and stirred up mud in the waters. Michelle's breath came out in quick, shallow gasps as she tried to steady her nerves. She slowly moved the camera and lighted around the cave, hoping to catch sight of whatever was lurking in the shadows. Just when she thought she was alone, she saw a flicker of movement in the distance. Her heart skipped a beat, and a knot formed in her stomach. She peered into the darkness, straining to see what was there. Was it a fish, a seal, or something much larger and more dangerous? Her pulse raced as she approached the source of the movement, her camera lens trained on the murky waters ahead. A chill ran down Michelle's spine as she peered into the murky depths. Suddenly, she spotted movement, a shadowy shape gliding closer and closer. Her eyes widened in horror as the massive form of a 16-foot great white shark emerged from the gloom, its razor-sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light. Michelle's heart pounded as she realized she was face to face with one of the ocean's most fearsome predators. She tried to back away slowly, but her feet refused to obey her commands. The shark approached, its jaws gaping wide, ready to strike. Michelle's grip on her camera tightened, but in her moment of terror, her fingers betrayed her, and the device slipped from her grasp, crashing to the ground with a gentle thud. As the camera's light flickered and illuminated her petrified expression, Michelle braced herself for the inevitable attack, praying she would survive the encounter. The great white shark launched itself at Michelle with lightning speed. She barely had time to register what was happening before it was upon her. The jaws of the massive predator snapped shut around her neck, swallowing her head whole in one brutal attack. The force of the shark's bite was immense, and Michelle's body was no match for its razor-sharp teeth. Michelle's camera captured the harrowing scene as the shark thrashed around, its massive frame causing the water to churn and roil. Michelle's initial reaction was to fight back, but her blows were weak and ineffective against the powerful predator. Blood poured from her wounds, mingling with the water and turning it a sickening shade of red. The shark showed no mercy as it mauled the helpless YouTuber. Its teeth tore into her flesh, shredding muscle and bone with ease. Michelle's screams were muffled by the water, but her agony was clear as day in the footage captured by the camera. The shark's eyes were wild with hunger and rage as it continued its attack, oblivious to the horror it was inflicting. With a sudden gut-wrenching force, The shark's jaws clamped down on Michelle's flesh, tearing it apart like tissue paper. Pain shot through her body as she tried to fight back, but it was useless. In a split second, the world around her faded to black. Silence hung heavy in the water as the shark continued its vicious assault. Michelle's body went limp, floating lifelessly as the predator tore into her flesh. With a sickening snap, her body was suddenly severed from her head, leaving a grotesque sight in its wake. The shark didn't stop there, though. It seemed to relish in the destruction it had wrought, devouring Michelle's mangled carcass with frenzied fervor. Her camera recorded the horror for all to see, transmitting the footage back to her computer in real time. A week after Michelle's disappearance, a widely publicized search was conducted to locate the missing YouTuber. After 9 days, the boat she rented was located and investigated in search of possible foul play. Upon opening her computer, the gruesome scene was uncovered by the investigating police. Michelle's death scene went viral, and just as she wanted to have views on social media when she was alive, she received so many when she died. But her family, friends, and fans were left devastated by the tragedy. Her death was a stark reminder of the dangers of the ocean and the risks that come with exploring its depths. The remote beach in Australia was a slice of paradise that Jake had never experienced. The sand was soft and white, and the water was a brilliant shade of blue. It was a stark contrast to the city he had left behind. The beach was empty, and the only sound that he could hear was the gentle sound of waves hitting the shore. Jake was a 24-year-old marine biologist who was passionate about studying sharks. He had traveled to Australia to conduct his research and was excited to spend the next few months in this paradise. As the sun rose each day, Jake eagerly dove into the ocean's depths, mesmerized by the sleek and powerful sharks that called it home. He was drawn to their every movement, the flick of their tails, the graceful arch of their bodies, and the way they silently crept through the water. His fascination of these apex predators consumed him, and he spent hours studying their behavior, forgetting all else. Despite the danger that lurked beneath the surface, Jake pushed the limits of safety as he swam ever closer to the sharks. He felt invincible, lost in his own world of wonder and excitement. The adrenaline rush coursing through him as he approached these fearsome creatures was intoxicating, and he couldn't get enough. Jake's obsession with the sharks grew stronger as time passed, and he neglected even the most basic safety protocols. He was completely consumed by his passion and paid little heed to the risk he was taking. Every moment in the water was an adventure, a chance to experience the awe-inspiring beauty of the sharks up close. But as the days passed, the danger that Jake had recklessly ignored began catching up to him. The sharks, once so majestic and awe-inspiring, began to take on a sinister quality. Their movements became more aggressive, their presence more menacing. And as Jake continued to push the limits of safety, it seemed his luck was running out. Jake's heart raced as he swam alone in the vast ocean, surrounded by the eerie silence of the deep blue. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a shark that seemed to be acting strangely. Its movements were unpredictable, darting in and out of the shadows, as if stalking its prey. As Jake watched, the shark's behavior became even more erratic, and he realized with a growing sense of unease that it was fixated on him. The creature began to circle him menacingly, its razor-sharp teeth glinting in the sunlight. Jake felt a chill run down his spine as he realized he was in grave danger. The shark circled and circled for what felt like an eternity, its presence an ominous threat. Jake was paralyzed with fear, unable to move as the predator closed in. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the shark vanished into the depths of the ocean, leaving Jake alone in the dark and foreboding waters. Jake's heart pounded as he scanned the dark waters around him, searching for any sign of the shark stalking him. Suddenly, he felt a searing pain in his left leg, and he looked down to see the massive form of a great white shark clamped onto his flesh, with its razor-sharp teeth. Terror washed over Jake instantly as he realized the danger he was in. He struggled frantically, tried to break free from the beast's jaws, but it held on with an iron grip. Jake felt the crushing pressure of the shark's bite, and he cried out in agony as the water around him turned crimson with his blood. Despite the overwhelming pain, Jake fought to stay conscious, desperate to escape this nightmare. But his screams were muffled by the encompassing water, and he could feel himself growing weaker with each passing moment. As the great white continued to tear into his flesh, Jake's mind raced with thoughts of survival. He knew he had to act fast to make it out of this alive, but after a few minutes of thrashing around the water, the shark tore Jake's limb away from his fragile body before disappearing to the depths of the ocean. Jake forced himself to keep moving through the haze of agony, his aching body propelling him towards the surface. But just as he felt a glimmer of hope, the shark's jaws clamped down on his left arm, tearing into his flesh with savage force. The pain was unbearable, and Jake's vision began to blur as he struggled to stay afloat. He was certain that this was the end for him, that he would soon be dragged down to a watery grave by the relentless predator. But then, out of nowhere, a mighty orca appeared, its massive form slamming into the shark with a force that Jake could feel through the water. The shark recoiled in surprise and pain, its grip on Jake's arm loosening. Jake seized the opportunity, swimming frantically toward the surface as the orca battled the ferocious predator. With each stroke, he felt himself drawing closer to the air above, to safety and the hope of survival. The shark, unwilling to give up its prey, was poised to attack again. As it started darting towards Jake again, the orca rammed it head-on. The shark recoiled in agonizing pain. Realizing it was impossible to get to Jake, it retreated and started swimming away. The orca chased the shark, and they both disappeared in the distance. Jake was left in the water, injured and in pain. He slowly swam his way to his waiting boat, leaving a grisly trail of blood on its path. He managed to climb aboard and call for rescue. It took hours for the rescue team to arrive, but they were able to stabilize him and take him to the nearest hospital. The doctors did all they could, but repairing his mangled left leg and arm was impossible. Jake was devastated by the news. He had lost his passion and his life's work. He returned to his hometown, vowing to never set foot in the ocean again. For months, Tina had been consumed with the anticipation of this surfing competition. She had committed herself to training relentlessly, pushing her body to exhaustion, just to be prepared for the challenge ahead on the North Shore. Standing on the beach, she surveyed the mighty expanse of the ocean before her, taking deep breaths to steady her nerves. The water was like a shimmering siren, beckoning her to come and test her mettle against its towering, ferocious waves. Tina felt her heart pounding with fear and excitement, knowing that the next few hours would be the ultimate test of her surfing prowess. Tina's heart was a drumbeat of excitement as she waded into the ocean, the exhilaration of the moment making her feel alive. She took a deep breath, feeling the salty tang of the sea air filling her lungs, and set her sights on the horizon. The first few waves were a warm-up, and Tina expertly rode them with ease, her confidence growing with each passing moment. She felt invincible, at one with the water, and was determined to tackle the most challenging wave of the day. As she positioned herself on the crest of a particularly massive wave, Tina's eyes widened in awe at the sheer power and majesty of the ocean. She dug her toes into the board, hunkering down in a low crouch, and prepared to launch into the ride of her life. But just as she started to surge forward, a dark shape caught her eye, lurking beneath the water's surface. Tina's pulse pounded in her ears as she caught sight of the shadowy figure lurking beneath the waves. A sense of dread washed over her as she realized the danger that she was in. The creature's powerful form was unmistakable: a tiger shark, the ocean's apex predator. The shark's size alone was daunting, easily twice the length of her surfboard. Her body tensed as she tried to process the situation, but her mind raced with thoughts of escape. The slightest twitch could trigger the shark's instincts and lead to a fatal encounter. She forced herself to remain focused on the task, maintaining a calm facade as she navigated the turbulent waters. She couldn't let the shark sense her fear, but the danger was ever present, lurking just beneath the surface. Suddenly, Tina's darkest fears became a reality when the shark noticed her movement in the water. The shark launched its attack, catching her completely off guard. The force of the collision made her feel like a rag doll, powerless against the predator's sheer strength. Her body convulsed as the shark's powerful jaws sank deep into her leg, biting down with a force that made her bones feel like they were about to shatter. She gasped for air as the pain jolted through her body, feeling like 1,000 needles piercing her skin. The water around her turned red with blood, and she could feel the warmth of it as it mixed with the cool seawater. Her screams echoed through the ocean, but she knew it was useless. No one was close enough to hear her desperate pleas for help. She thrashed and kicked, trying to shake the shark off her leg, but it was useless. The creature has her in its grip and is determined to take her down. Tina's heart raced with terror as she struggled to fend off the ferocious beast. She could feel its jaws clamped tightly around her leg, crushing bone and tearing muscle with every shake of its massive head. Desperately, she swung her fist and thrashed her legs, hoping to land a blow that would make the creature loosen its grip. But the tiger shark was a formidable opponent, its body a sleek, muscular machine honed by millions of years of evolution to hunt and kill. Tina felt her lungs burning as she was dragged deeper and deeper into the inky depths, the cold water stealing her warmth and breath. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts, and her body screamed with pain, but she refused to give up. She had to keep fighting and stay alive, no matter what. Tina's vision was clouding over as the darkness threatened to consume her. She was certain that this was the end, that she would be swallowed whole by the predator lurking in the depths. But just as her consciousness was slipping away, a flicker of light caught her eye. A distant figure was racing towards her, his boat carving through the waves like a knife through butter. Tina's heart surged with hope as she saw the fisherman, his face set in determination, charging towards her. She lifted her arms towards him with the last ounce of her strength, praying that he would see her. And he did. He was upon her in moments, and with a swift stroke of his oar, he hit the shark on the nose. The creature released its grip on Tina's leg and disappeared back into the murky depths, confused and disoriented. Tina gasped for breath as the fisherman lifted her onto his boat, her body shaking with fear and relief. Tina spent the next few weeks recovering in the hospital, surrounded by friends and family who were grateful that she had survived the shark attack. As she lay in bed, she reflected on the terror of the experience and the realization that life can be unpredictable and fragile. But she also felt a sense of strength and resilience, knowing she had faced one of her worst fears and come out alive.